Welcome to today's episode. My name is Jesse Malin, and I help you make your best relationship. It happens all too often. Two people meet, they start dating, all they want to do is be with each other, all they want to do is touch each other, compliment each other, give each other gifts, serve each other, and they think the world is just a wonderful place. So what do? They decide to seal the deal, get married, and move in together. And then, after they've been together for a little while, something wrong seems to happen. They start falling out of touch with each other. And this is exactly the thing I want to talk about in today's video. Today I want to talk about communication and specifically the aspect of your language of love. And communication is probably the most helpful tool in a relationship to build and keep and maintain a fulfilling and meaningful relationship. But it can also be the most detrimental thing that happens when a couple doesn't communicate, when they don't have good communication skills, when they're not aware of things like that. That can actually be very detrimental and lead to them separating. And so communication is probably the most important tool you could have in your relationship. And to start out this series on communication, I specifically want to talk about Dr. Chapman's 5 love languages, because that is an important thing that I think is most beneficial for everyone to learn about, use, and be aware of. But before we do that, I first want to talk about feeding. So what I mean feeding, you're feeding each other. And no, I don't mean stuffing food into your partner's face. I mean the kind of feeding where you are feeding your partner love. You're giving them love. They are giving you love. That's what I mean with food. Just like we all have an appetite. When we're hungry, we need to be fed. It's the same in love. When we're hungry for love, we need to be fed that love. And Dr. Chapman, who's been a therapist for many, many years, he's worked with many, many people, and he started noticing these patterns or type of ways that people like to give and receive love. And he's boiled them down to 5 specific categories or love languages. He's titled his book, The 5 Love Languages. I'll post it on the screen. But 5 love languages that we as human beings like to give and receive love. And they are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, giving gifts, and doing acts of service. And I want to talk about those specifically, give a little summary of each of those, and give some pointers on things to probably do and things you should probably avoid outside of what he's recommended in his book. And so to start off, let's first talk about words of affirmation. And that one is exactly what it sounds like. It is just giving love, reassurances, compliments, those type of things to your partner or significant other. But to make it real meaningful for them, you will want to point out things that they find important, things that they focus on in their life, and compliment them regarding those things. If they think working hard is important to them, compliment them on that. If they think that making the home a comfortable place is important to them, compliment them on that. Be genuine in your compliments with them, and that will go a long way. I had a friend tell me, he said a genuine compliment would keep him fed for a week. That's a long time. Someone whose love language is words of affirmation, realistically, that could keep someone excited and happy for a whole week. That could be so meaningful for them. And if you're thinking this is silly, it's probably not your primary love language, but still should be something you learn, implement, and use in your life. So the next love language, we'll go with acts of service. Let's do acts of service. That is a very simple one to do, but it's not always a fun one to do, especially if you don't want to do extra work after you've come home from work all day. But nevertheless, it may be a very life-changing, relationship-building thing to add in your life. And they could be simple. It could be as simple as taking the trash out or doing the dishes. It could be as complicated as doing something that your partner or significant other has been avoiding for a while. One thing you could do is you could notice something that they would like to have done and go do it for them, especially if they haven't done it for a couple weeks or a long time. That could be very meaningful to them. And if you're not sure what to do. If your partner has this as their acts of service as their specific love language, ask them. Ask them what they would like done, and then go do it with a good attitude. It will mean the world to them, make all the difference in your relationship. And your consistency in using these love languages is going to be key here. So don't just do it once and then be done with it. Like, do it once a day or once a week. Do something. Go out of your way to do something to make them feel loved. The third love language is physical touch. And I want to make a note here really quick. Most guys, they think their primary love language is physical touch. And that is just because of a natural biological response that each male has built into them. So if your partner's a male and he thinks his love language is physical touch, ask him if he likes holding hands. Ask him if he likes you running your hands through his hair, and it not lead to having sex. Because here's the key. Men have a crazy sex drive. They have this need for sex that's biological. It's not just a mental thing going on with how society portrays men in that. It's actually a biological response because in the sperm vesicles, these are the vesicles that store man's sperms. They're right above the testicles there. When they reach a certain point or certain capacity, when they get filled up to a certain point, the need to ejaculate becomes very high. It becomes very, like the signal becomes really heated in a man. That's all he can think about. That's all he wants type of deal. And that's a biological response. Yes, that can be overruled. Yes, you can use sexual transmutation to overcome that. But for people that aren't aware, they often think that physical touch is their primary love language because of this specific biological response. But with that out of the way, if your specific love language is physical touch, or your partner's is physical touch, that's super easy. Hold their hand. Run your finger through their hair. Sit in their lap or allow them to sit in your lap. It's just simple things like that can go a long way. And if you really want huge bonus points, give them a massage. A little touch can go a long way. So let's talk about gift giving next. Gift giving. That can be very simple as well. That could be as simple as making dinner one night so your spouse doesn't have to make it, or buying dinner so they don't have to go out and make dinner or go get it themselves. It could be very complicated. Maybe your spouse wants a new cell phone or a new device or something like that. That's great. You maybe don't do that every day or every week, but giving something to your spouse every week will be very, very important. You could go pick a flower from your neighbor's yard, from their lovely flower patch. Except maybe don't really do that because you might ruin your relationship with your neighbor, but you get the point that giving gifts, especially if it hasn't been done for a while and this is your partner's primary love language, that can be a huge life changer for your partner. That could be a huge relationship saver in your relationship, just doing something simple like that every day, whatever the gift is. Maybe you make the gift. Maybe you don't always buy the gift. You make the gift. It could be something simple and silly. Maybe you make it. I know my wife, she gave me a big old book that she made herself. She cut out this encyclopedia so it looked like a book, and then you open it up and it was a box inside. It was really cool. She made it all on her own, and she filled it with things that she loved about me or compliments, because my primary love language is words of affirmation. So the gift giving wasn't like that huge to me, but all of the compliments and the nice things that she said in there about me was huge. I loved it. That was ginormous, huge for me. Really strengthened our love in our early marriage. It was awesome, and we still have the book today. It's really cool. And this gets us to our last love language, and that is quality time. Quality time is so important, and it might be something hard for you to develop and add in your daily going about, your daily living, right? And here's the important thing. It's quality time, not quantity time. So instead of like spending an hour and a half watching a movie, which there's no quality really in that, not if you're doing that consistently. Maybe movies are nice, you guys like those together, but quality time, that's where you're focusing on them. You're giving them your undivided attention, not being interrupted by cell phone or by other people or even by kids. You know, you've taken quality time to spend it with this person. That's going to be so important for people who have that as their primary love language. If your spouse is saying, hey, I don't feel like you love me, you never spend enough time with me, well, maybe quality time is their primary love language. That's a huge thing for them. Quality time, not quantity time. you start living that way and you do all these, whatever love language your spouse has, you deliver that love language to them with a good attitude, being genuine and really giving your effort full attention there. That's going to be a huge game changer in your relationship. And when you change those aspects of your relationship, your whole life gets affected for the better. It becomes amazing. It's so cool. But I want to give well, 2 warnings, really, realistically. Here's a common problem with love languages that people have in their relationship. So take Andre and Andrea, right? Andrea's love language is words of affirmation. Andre's love language is physical touch. So that's just a hypothetical scenario here. And so they're dating, they're excited, they're always loving on each other, always feeding each other. They're always touching and kissing and doing those things. They're always spending time together. They're always giving each other things. They're complimenting each other. They're serving each other. All of that stuff. They think it's wonderful. They get married. A couple of years later, they start drifting apart and they start wondering, why isn't their relationship as strong as it used to be? What's happening here? Maybe my spouse doesn't love me that much. But you would ask them, do you still love each other? Ask them individually. Yes, I still love my spouse. They will both tell you, yes, they both love each other, but not sure why they feel like they're drifting apart. Well, here's the common theme. So, Andrea's love language, I guess use the same side, right? Andrea's love language is words of affirmation. So what does she do? All she consistently does is tell Andre how wonderful he is, how handsome he is, all those things, and that's her love language. So she is feeding him the way she likes to receive love. So she continues to do that. Well, Andre, it's all right. He thinks compliments are nice, but for him, he really likes physical touch. So he wants to hold her hand. He wants to just cuddle her and touch her all the time. He wants that time in the bedroom alone with her, those types of things. And Andrea's not too crazy about that. And so for each of them, they're kind of conflicting in their love language. But before, when they were dating in their early years of marriage, they clicked so good. They had such an exciting time. They loved each other. They were feeling fulfilled, those types of things. So what happened is, they stopped doing those extra things and just started feeding each other the way they were brought up or raised, the way they saw their moms and dads feed each other love, right? Those types of things, the way they want to receive love. And that's a common problem. So what do they got to do? Just 3 things. They got to learn the love languages and learn which love language is theirs. They need to learn which love language their spouse is, what their primary love language is. And then the third thing is start delivering, feeding their partner in the way they like to be fed. It's just that simple. It's really that simple. But here's the second warning that comes with love languages. When you become aware of your spouse's love language, you must be doubly sure not to attack them in that love language. You should never attack your spouse anyway, even if you're having a disagreement. Like, here's the scenario. Let's say Andre and Andrea get in a fight, and Andrea's love language is words of affirmation, right? Well, they get in a disagreement, and Andre tells her how horrible she is. She calls her names, and then they split, right? They get so mad, they just go away from each other. Well, maybe for another couple that doesn't have any aspect of words of affirmation in their love language needs, that might hurt them on a scale of 10. It might be a level 5. But for Andrea, that might hurt her on a level 11. Be the worst, almost the worst thing that could happen type deal. And it can be very potent. Now, if Andrea started manipulating Andre, I'm not going to spend time with you in the bedroom, or we're not going to go do things physically together unless you do X, Y, and Z. That's very manipulative. That might make Andre feel very, very unworthy, very invaluable, very used, essentially. Especially if he's not rooted in himself, if he's not comfortable and doesn't worry about what other people think. He could very much get knocked off his footing if that type of manipulation happened in their relationship. And so it can be very damaging to attack or manipulate or hurt someone in their primary way they like to receive love. So remember that. When you get in a disagreement, never attack each other. There'll be a whole nother video on what you can do when you get into a disagreement and specific steps you can take. But remember that it is important to give love in the way that your partner likes to receive love. Never attack in that way. And be aware, be mindful of those aspects that you each share about love, and that you each need, the way you each need to be fed love. what are you going to do now? It's really cool. Dr. Chapman, he really is a wonderful person in the aspect that he has given this knowledge to the world, and he has freely distributed links to take his tests, the 5 love language tests, to find out what your specific love language is, and so your spouse can find out theirs, and then you can share answers and work on rebuilding your love together. It's so cool. I will include the link to that test below this video in the description for you to click the link, take the test for yourself, and see what love language you have. And when you find out what love language you each have, remember to feed each other the way each other needs to be fed, because it's a need. That's why you got together, because not only were you attracted to each other physically, but emotionally, mentally, right? Those aspects of each other attracted you to each other. And so I hope you use this to make your best relationship. And with that, I bid you adieu, much love, and have a happy day. Goodbye.